All right. So I looked at myself in the video that I made yesterday. Oh, by the way, today is the 8th of July, making it exactly 1 year to the date when this insanity of my personal life started. Now, granted, my life wasn't perfect before then, but it really was not only manageable, but the issues. Wow, every single time I start talking about myself and my personal life, I want to vomit. Oof. So, anywho, back to the story at hand. It's virtually impossible for me to say anything right now. I am so shocked at the events that have culminated to have me honestly be speechless. Based on the reaction of the highest level of law enforcement and every human being that has ever watched the videos that I've posted in the last couple of days, I don't know if I'm really interested in being an American citizen anymore. It's really disturbing what our country has spiraled into based on how much fear everyone has to accept the reality that, yeah, like maybe the entire country has been in a state of disbelief as to the corruption and the exposure of the corrupt elements. Now, one thing I do want to remind everyone is that, in my personal opinion, I believe this wonderful country of ours, as well as every country that is relatively civilized, endures massive amounts of internal corruption because, let's be honest, it's basically unavoidable. You're giving human beings who earn very little amount of money traditionally omnipotent power, basically the ability to wield budgets of billions of dollars, affect human beings whose cases are worth billions of dollars, and you expect these people to not partake in the endless amounts of it's the best way for me to describe it. It's very biblical. It's Adam and Eve, and it is the fruit of knowledge being presented to Eve. Now, I'm not a big Bible guy. I don't quote scriptures. I actually don't know anything about theology, and I've said that many, many times. And one of the reasons I know very little about theology is that I find theology to be an excellent form of education for the masses that are relatively, I don't want to say uneducated, but underexposed is the best way for me to put it. For human beings like me who have studied media and narratives for their entire lives, there are many, many parallels to biblical stories, such as in Hollywood, many sports, and even in modern history. Yes, actual modern history, including modern European history, and especially the last 2,000 years, truly is the best way to validate the stories of the Bible. But one of the most interesting and simplest ones is the story of Adam and Eve. And what we find ourselves to be are human beings that are able to reflect, criticize, but do nothing about it. And the reason why I say this is because I do believe that a lot of the politicians that we find today being at the center of these ridiculously overly complicated and completely unnecessary tales of corruption, I find myself thinking, what would the majority of the people that are judging these people do if they were given this power? Now, frankly, I would love to believe that the audience that's watching this, the human beings at home that are complete losers and have no power whatsoever, if given the chance to be a judge, a politician, or anyone in the position to act on the corrupt elements that they are, I don't know, teased with. And the sad truth is that we will never know how you, the audience that wants to criticize both myself and the people that are behind the malfeasance and the crimes that I've had to endure. I don't believe that a nation who is so careless about such important issues as the ones that I presented in the last couple of days would ever be able to say, if I was in charge, I would do something different. Because look, you are in charge, not like Charles, but in reality, you are very much in charge. And when you're looking at the elements of, well, if I was given a chance to do this, I would do X, Y, Z. Well, you are, as a member of our society, by not disseminating any of my content, by suppressing it, by ignoring it, and by isolating me and anyone associated with me to be completely insane, is the complete opposite of what you would be required to do should you actually say, I want to make a difference. I want to be the person who represents the change in our country, not just a bystander who laughs at human beings trying to make a change. Please understand that it is very, very easy to criticize me, especially if you're a complete loser who's never accomplished anything, because what you're able to do is deny all of my accomplishments, achievements, kindness, and the amount of shit that I have to eat on a daily basis for doing nothing more than speaking the truth on this YouTube channel. Well, the reason for that is because of your jealousy and your inability to truly understand the complexities of how weak your mind is and how strong I am. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. My children have a very hard time grasping why. Why is dad so much different than every other dad? Why are we, as the rhesus men, very, very different, no matter what we say or do or how much people want to deny it? I've done the best I can to be transparent, honest, forthcoming, logical, coherent, as well as truly make some innovative strides in my persona online. I no longer yell, I don't scream, I get very upset a lot of the times, but please ask yourself, how would you react if you have been robbed, beaten, arrested on almost a dozen times with everything being dropped? You spent 31 days in county jail. You had your multi-million-dollar home taken away from you illegally. You've had all your possessions taken from you. All of your business contents are locked away in your office and you're not able to get to it. Your assistant has been the victim of basically some of the most illegal and unlawful practices by Jared Resnick, his attorney Jamie Berger, and basically his entire family jumped on board to hurt the mother of her 3 children who they claim they want the best for. Look, ladies and gentlemen, I want to reassure everyone that unless you invent a fucking time machine, both Jamie and I are amazing parents to 5 minors. Any human being who can actually rationalize and justify separating us from our children is sick. They are mentally ill. Like, I don't know how to describe this to you. There's a collective group of incestuous, mentally ill Jews that have invented a series of stories because they can't accept the reality. And here's the reality. Jared and his counterpart, Mallory, are unhinged. They are not capable of recognizing that parental rights exist in the United States, and it is in the best interest of the children to have both parents involved in their lives. At no time have Jamie and I ever stated that Mallory and Jared should not be in the kids' lives, no matter how deceptive their lies and their endless manipulation. And manipulation of children is so illegal, and alienation of the other parent, which Jamie and I have never done. And that's one of the things you need to understand, is that we're dealing with human beings that are willing to hurt their own children. We are not in a position where we can just easily stand up and do whatever we want. We actually love our children and want to make sure that they're in our lives for the rest of our lives. People who are hurting children are simply not aware that the children will grow up, and this content alone preserves our right to just basically say, look, when you have kids, you'll understand how difficult it is to have a double-edged sword where you're dealing with the mental state, happiness, and blissfulness of a child's childhood, when in the face of lies being told against you, you have to keep your mouth shut or else you're going to look like the bad guy. Jamie has chosen to take the high road, whereas sometimes I get very upset and I really express that, hey, boys, I really love you, but what's being said about me is complete lies. And the idea that because you're not told anything negative about me by words, you don't realize that I am a victim of almost a dozen false arrests. Mallory has walked into the police station, has demanded for me to be arrested for crimes I have never done. The police have engaged and have arrested me on half dozen times with no probable cause. And as you need to understand this, first, she tried to kill me by physically assaulting me for 6 years, throwing water on me, literally lunging at Jamie and myself with knives and unbelievably violent things. You know, at one point, like right before everything happened, I made a really nice pasta dinner and my wife just took everything and threw it in the sink for no reason whatsoever. Another time I was laying in bed and she threw water all over me. It's like this insane childishness. And all of this is denied by the courts because they do not accept the videos that I've submitted that show all of this, because it is not in their best interest. You see, Mallory's a female and I'm a male, and being a white man in our society is almost impossible. If you look at Netflix or any of these mass media channels, the majority of the reality shows that are being pumped out involve some sort of a criminal element of a human being who trusts another human being and that other human being turns out to be a fucking psycho. And a big chunk of these psychos are white guys that are engaged. Like, look, whether or not you believe this or not, I've known my wife for 25 years. We didn't meet at a bar. There is no history of exes. I have been the same person for a quarter of a century. For a court to believe that out of nowhere I would turn around, become a drug addict or some sort of a violent offender, that court is an idiot, a complete moron, only a complete idiot. First and foremost, I know that the rulings are done on purpose as a conspiracy to silence me and pretty much destroy my life so I can't film this content. But when you look at the facts, there is zero merit behind the judge's decisions, and they have no ability to back them up whatsoever. Right now, I believe my wife demanded that I pay $20,000 a month for all the expenses in the house. They don't even come close to add up to that. And she got it. So now she has a $120,000 debt that this psychopath, Matthew Smora, look, my wife thinks that because she hired an unprofessional moron and her father is paying hundreds and thousands of this guy who couldn't even afford a second suit. His socks were so dirty they smelled. That's how embarrassing this guy was. He looked like he was clean, but he wasn't. He had the giant white teeth, fake ass hair, fake tan, stuffed into this suit. Look, when you have to go to Red Bank and you live in Livingston, New Jersey, she had to go to Red Bank to find this clown. No one in North Jersey in their right mind would ever believe her or take her case. And then her backup lawyer clearly was not paid for. She entered the case by voluntarily representing Mallory after Mallory kidnapped my children, took them to Florida, after she took them to Pittsburgh, and the alienation process started. Now my boys hate me. They believe that I did something wrong, which is not true whatsoever. And they believe truly in their hearts that mom's just really, really upset. Mom's a liar. And she puts on the most disgusting, pitiful act in front of absolutely everyone, anyone who wants to listen to it, all because she can't accept the reality that she destroyed her marriage. She is the violent aggressor, and no one can ever work around Mallory. She's completely unhinged, violent, and wouldn't let me breathe. I almost died. A year later, I can gladly and honestly say, thank God I was able to get out of this complete psychotic cycle where the only thing that anyone has to say is, hey man, it must be crazy living with this guy and this YouTube channel. Well, guess what? I had the channel up for the last 7 years. She didn't do shit until I filed a restraining order. This woman is so unhinged that she takes my kids' phones at night, pretends to be them while texting me. And I have all the evidence to prove it. Not to mention the fact she pretends to be my children to psychologically torture me. She writes the most insane text messages directly to me in violation of the final restraining order. She has violated the final restraining order 6 different times. While she was claiming that Jamie was harassing her, she was smiling and laughing in a Caldwell court. And if you don't believe me, please just keep watching. What I have shown you with Judge Salas is not even 2% of what I have planned for this summer. For example, I have evidence of a major player on the New York Knicks cheating, I believe. I believe that I caught the largest cheating scandal in the history of modern day professional sports. And I know for a fact that FanDuel knows exactly what I'm talking about. Yes, it happened in front of my eyes. It actually happened recorded. And it is so unbelievable that I'm going to take my time and make sure that Miss Resnick is on camera with me, because she was a very big part of it. She was a witness to everything. Now, I want to remind absolutely everyone that's watching this that I do not take a penny for what I do. Everything that I've said is 99.9% true, and the reason why I don't say 100% is because I make mistakes. I'm a human being. I forgot the Odessas in Ukraine once. And I do. I appreciate anyone email me or sending any comments whatsoever. I recognize that some people that are completely obsessed with me cannot control themselves and have to send constant communications just showing me how much they care and love me and spend their time thinking about me, and I don't give a shit or know who anyone that's watching is. See, I'm not one of those people that's like, oh, I love my audience. No. This is my art. I produce it with my heart and a fart. That's it. I don't know. I thought that it would be cool. It is not cool because I am a lame dad. What I am really good at is something called applied mathematics, game theory. And if you're not impressed with my abilities to put together not just a positive, fact-driven narrative on one of the most complicated and unbelievably true, what it looks like it's unbelievably true based on the lack of response and the lack of evidence to counter everything that I've stated. And that's where it really gets sad. When you take a second and think about it, wait a second, the probabilities of this happening are pretty much zero. And the event that I describe needs to be on a whiteboard or a storyboard that I will very calmly produce over the next couple of weeks. There's no reason to rush into something in order to prove or disprove. The facts are what they are. A human being can only accept the facts if they accept that the information that they're getting is not only true, it's relevant to what they're thinking about. And as I conclude this film or this video, I want to remind everyone once again that my entire point is that you don't care about the real things in life. But when I show you the story about a sports controversy, you're going to get all in a tizzy, because not only is it true, you will find that your brain can only accept the reality that is cozy, warm, and in line with your own beliefs. When you're given facts that are clearly true, but it would disrupt your entire world, your brain denies it. You will see me as something that I am completely not, in order to justify making what I am saying a lie. When in reality, you can Google, look up the information, and know that everything I'm saying. There was not one Mark, but there were 2 Marks and a Dan, spelled with an E. But when you have 2 individuals, one in California, one in New Jersey, one with a C, one with a K, both named Mark, and a guy named Dan, and those are the principals, those are the only men that were involved in this whole thing, Mark and Dan. And thank God he spelled a little bit differently. But please, if your name is Dan Rhesus and your brother is Mark Rhesus, and you have to deal with the fact that Mark actually was supposed to be named well, he was actually George, but that's a different story. But Mark was a M-A-R-C, and he was M-A-R-K when he came to America. So having the sheer coincidences of these ridiculously coincidental names, and on top of which the little boy that was killed was Daniel. So you got Dan, Daniel, Mark, and Mark. Those are the four men involved in the narrative that I'm talking about. And you think that I'm crazy for not being at all shocked by how little you give a shit about your country, your money, your power, and your freedom. Bye.